Biden to meet with Putin in Russia on Wednesday. Canadian man accused of murdering Muslim family to face terrorist charges. And Disneyland to end mask mandate for the vaccinated patrons next on Midday. From the M&N Studios, you're watching Midday. Good evening and welcome to Midday at the top of the hour and world news. On tomorrow, the U.S. President is scheduled to meet with his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, in what is to be the first face-to-face meeting. Now, there has been several moods predicted as the two world leaders exchange verbal jabs before their Moscow summit, with President Putin responding to President Biden's comment about him, that is, he is a killer. Now, President Putin responded back in a Russian televised interview that he, quote, wishes Biden good health, and that goes without irony or jokes. He continued on by saying, I remember when I was young and got into fights with friends. We always used to say whoever calls names is called that himself. He said, and that is not just a children's joke. The meaning is quite deep psychologically, he said. We always see our qualities in another person and think that he or she is like ourselves. End quote. Now, it is believed that the Russian president was implying that Biden was the murderer he professed him to be. From the United Kingdom, Prime Minister Boris Johnson has delayed his plans to lift most of Britain's remaining COVID-19 restrictions by a month on Monday, warning that thousands more people might die if he did nothing because of the rapid spread of the more infectious Delta variant. Now, under the final stage of a plan outlined by Johnson in February, he had hoped to lift most social restrictions on June 21st, meaning pubs, restaurants, nightclubs, and other hospitality venues could fully reopen. Now, that much anticipated step was pushed back to July the 19th. Johnson said in a recent news conference, I think it is sensible to wait just a little longer as things stand and on the evidence that I can see right now. I'm confident that we will not need more than 4 weeks. Now, the extra time would be used to speed up Britain's vaccination program, already one of the world's furthest advanced, by shortening the recommended time between doses for those aged 40 to 8 weeks, from 12 weeks. Now, the situation will be reviewed on June 28th, which could allow the reopening to be brought forward, although Johnson's spokesman said that was considered unlikely. Now, in recent weeks, there has been fast growth in new cases caused by the Delta variant, first discovered in India. Health officials believe that it is a 60% more transmittable than the previous dominant strain, and scientists have warned that it could trigger a third wave of infections. In America, Disneyland, California will no longer require vaccinated guests to wear face masks either indoors or outdoors as of today. The theme park announced on yesterday as California prepares to lift most of its COVID-19 restrictions in response to rising vaccinations and lower cases. Disneyland guests who are fully vaccinated will no longer be required to wear face masks, but guests ages 2 and older who are not vaccinated must still wear them unless they're eating or drinking. Now, Disneyland will not ask guests to show proof of vaccination, but visitors will have to self-attest that they are complying with the policy before entering the theme park and say they are aware of the state's California strong recommendation that the theme park guests be either vaccinated or have tested negative for COVID-19. Now, the mandate will be lifted the same day that California drops its statewide COVID-19 restrictions, including its mask mandate, as well as when Walt Disney World in Florida will lift its indoor mask mandate for the vaccinated guests. Now, Disneyland will also start allowing guests who live outside of the state into its theme parks on June 15th, and will lift government-mandated restrictions on park capacity, temperature checks, physical distancing, on all those restrictions that COVID put in place prior to this mask mandate being lifted. Now, face masks will still be required on bus transportation to and from one of the theme park's parking lots. In Canada, the make-believe country, a Canadian man who is accused of deliberately running over 5 members of a Muslim family with his truck, killing 4 of them, now faces terrorist charges in addition to 2 counts of first-degree murder and attempted murder, prosecutors said on Monday. Nathaniel Veltman, age 20, was arrested shortly after the June 6 attack in a parking lot in London, Ontario, a short distance from the city's oldest mosque. He was wearing what happened to be body armor and a helmet at the time. Now, due to publication ban, details from a hearing in which Veltman appeared by Zoom on Monday from jail cannot be revealed. Veltman has not yet retained a lawyer. However, provincial and federal prosecutors provided their consent to commence terrorism proceedings against him, alleging that the killing of Salzman Afzal, his wife, their daughter, and Afzal's mother, and attempted killing of the couple's son constituted terrorist activity, according to a statement from police in London, a city west of Toronto. Now, the 9-year-old boy, who was the sole survivor of the attack, was released from the hospital on Monday. Canadian Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland reacted to the news charges afterwards, saying, "It is really important for us to name it as an act of terror. And it is important for us to identify the terrible threat that white supremacists pose to the Canadian and Canada." End quote. Now, the 5 members of the Afzal family were out on an evening walk near the home when they were run over on a sidewalk. Now, it was the worst attack against Canadian Muslims since a man gunned down 6 members of a Quebec City mosque in 2017. In technology, YouTube will no longer allow political or election ads in its coveted masthead spot at the top of the site's homepage, nor ads for alcohol, gambling, and prescription drugs. This was released on a statement on Monday. In an email to advertisers, YouTube said the change built on its move last year to retire all full masthead ads. It said has retired these full-day reservations like the one then President Donald Trump reserved to dominate his homepage on Election Day 2020 and replaced them with more targeted formats. "We regularly review our advertising requirements to ensure they balance the needs of both advertising and users," a Google spokesman said in an email statement. They continued on by saying, "We believe this update will build on changes we made last year to the masthead reservation process and will lead to a better experience for users," they added. Now, Google said that the change to its most prominent ad unit was effective immediately. Google paused political ads together around the U.S. presidential election campaign and again ahead of President Joe Biden's inauguration in January this year, citing its policy over sensitive events. And finally, in business, Jaguar Land Rover will begin tests later this year on hydrogen fuel cell prototype model based on its Land Rover Defender vehicle, as the car maker looks to expand its zero-emission car options. Now, JLR, owned by India's Tata Motors, earlier this year said that its luxury Jaguar brand will be entirely electric by the year 2025. And the more rugged off-road Land Rover brand will launch 6 pure electric models over the next 5 years. Now, most of the auto industry is focusing its efforts on developing battery electric cars to meet tightening emission standards in Europe and China. But JLR is one of the small number of car makers that sees possibilities for the mass adoption of hydrogen fuel cells, which emit only water as they produce electricity, and has said it believes hydrogen has a future role in the auto industry. Now, hydrogen fuel cells provide high energy density and rapid refueling and minimal loss of range in low temperatures, making the technology ideal for larger, long-range vehicles or those operating in hot or cold environments. The hydrogen Land Rover Defender will undergo tests to verify key attributes such as off-road capability and fuel consumption. And that is your glimpse of the world news at the top of the hour. For midday, this is Charles Rivers. We hope to see you again in the news around the world tomorrow. Thank you.